Hello and welcome to Galactic Wisdom. We have a very special guest joining us today, and I'm going to waste no time at all in bringing her into the show. I'd like to introduce you to somebody I'm sure you know already, Andrea. Thank you very much for being here.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Now, I have in front of me quite a long bio. Is it okay if I read some of this bio?
Oh, it's all made up. It's all lies. None of it's real. But go ahead. Help yourself.
Just so everybody hears the full spiel and knows who you are.
Okay.
I'm sure they do already, but here we go. Andrea Perron is the author of House of Darkness, House of Light, a supernatural trilogy that is the true story behind the 2013 feature film, The Conjuring. She has also co-authored the historically based mystery thriller, In a Flicker, with George R. Lopez. During her frequent travels, she lectures about spirituality, metaphysics, and all paranormal phenomena, concentrating her research in ufology, a lifelong curiosity and fascination. It is her passion bearing new fruit in recent years. Her latest release is entitled A Wonder to Behold: Guideposts for Intergalactic Engagement with Humanity, True Labor of Love, Honoring the Galactic Family of Light. Earning a BA in philosophy and English from Chatham College in 1980, she has since worked in several fields as an entrepreneur, youth counselor, and actor, pursuing various eclectic interests over the decades. Currently, Andrea is writing the screenplay of her haunting family saga, collaborating within the film industry to bring their true story to light on the silver screen. As an outspoken human rights advocate and animal rights activist, all she does with love and always the best of intentions. It is her genuine desire to spread her positive message to as many people as possible, hoping it will resonate with like-minded mortals as she restlessly strives to dispel fear, bring peace to our troubled planet, and do her part to help heal the world of its woes. You have a very impressive bio there. So what I'm hoping to do today, Andrea, is to give people an overview of who you are and what your life has been. I've been on your shows a few times, and now this is the first time you're on Galactic Wisdom. So I would like to give people an overview. So maybe you could start off by telling us all, when in your life did you first start to realize that maybe something was going on that was a little bit unusual compared to relatively normal people?
Yeah, I'm Abby Normal. I know that. I came into this world feeling ever since my birth. Ever since I grew to an age of consciousness, knowing that there was something very different about me and feeling very out of place here. I can't tell you how many times in my life I just looked around this world and said, why am I here? What am I doing here? Obviously, some mistake has been made elsewhere that, I don't know who sends who where, but a mistake has been made. I've always felt like a misfit. It hasn't been until about the last maybe 12 years when I began sharing my experiences with the intergalactic family that I felt like, okay, this is right. This is it. This is true. This is pure. This is light and this is love. And this is why I'm here. Finally, I understood. It only took, 50 years of me wandering around feeling quite out of place. I noticed very, very early in my life that I had an inordinate ability to connect with animals. to speak to them and have them speak to me and understand them completely. And I thought everybody could do that. I really did. I thought everybody could do that. When I was 14, I discovered that not everyone can read sheet music. I thought everybody could do that. And I had a score for a very large orchestral piece laid out on one of the tables in the cafeteria at Burrowville High School. And somebody walked up to me and said, "What's that?" And I was like, "What do you mean, what's that?" Really? And it was, a lot of it was because I only hung out with people who were into literature, who were into music, who were into art, who were into, all the stuff that I was interested in and what I did. But moving to the farmhouse changed everything. Prior to that, I was, living in a little 7-room Cape Cod style home in Cumberland, Rhode Island, with my family, my 4 younger sisters and my parents. And the only thing that I can remember that was particularly strange then was that I would wake up in the middle of the night, and even if it was winter, I would just go outside and, maybe my slippers or my socks and my pajamas, and I would go sit on the swing set and start just swinging and looking at the sky and singing. My favorite songs for them then were Swinging on a Star. Was one of my favorites. And, I had several, but suddenly I would feel the hands of a parent on my shoulders, thinking that I was sleepwalking and bringing me back into the house in a blanket. Because mostly it's cold up in Rhode Island. Mostly it is. But it was even more than that. I remember having recurring dreams going back to my early childhood, where I was a very, very large black bird. So large that I could see the beak. A huge, huge black bird. I don't know if it was a raven or a crow or what, but it was how I examined the world. And in these recurring dreams, I would always go different places. And I remember one of the things that stunned me most was seeing the pyramids from above, seeing the redwood forest before 85% of it had been cut down. I was literally going back in time. And I thought, I guess I just had a really vivid imagination. But as the years went by, I remember the first time I ever saw the stars. I had bronchial pneumonia. I was almost dead. My mother panicked and called back before there was 911. She called the police and they sent an ambulance. And I remember being picked up out of my bed by this huge man with enormous muscles. And he just picked me up like I was just as light as a feather and wrapped me in his arms. And it was winter and we were living in Willimantic, Connecticut. It was before we even moved to Rhode Island. And I remember seeing the stars through 2 huge maple trees that we had in our front yard. And all the leaves were off. And I just looked at the cosmos, and I looked up at him and I could barely breathe and I could barely speak. But I said to him, "That's where I'm from. That's where I'm from." And I thought that I was going back. I was almost dead. It was the pneumonia progressed very, very quickly. And I spent 9 days in an oxygen tent in a hospital in St. Mary's Hospital in Willimantic, Connecticut, which was where all my sisters were born. My 4 younger sisters were born there. And then we moved to Cumberland, Rhode Island. But when we moved to the farm, everything changed. Everything. That's where the paradigm shift occurred for me personally. Christine, we can all see you. We did get a lovely butt view of my sister. You were not sneaking, honey. You were not. You were right there on the screen for everybody to see your butt. I just love her to pieces. Hey, she's the reason I'm in here. I'm using her computer because mine's like not even talking to me. I can't even touch it right now. It's so mad at me.
We have a comment from Heidi. Hello, all hugs. Thank you very much, Heidi.
I love her. I love that woman. And Susan Grill. I love that woman. Oh, Diana. Oh, see, all my people came. I'm so glad. I'm so glad. Jonathan. You will meet Jonathan at the farm. I am telling you, Rupert, you are going to meet him. So we went to the farm, and the first year, or like 10 months, it was bizarre because I was having experiences there every day, nothing I had ever seen or experienced before. I was blending into the fourth dimension with so much ease and facility that the spirits looked like you do. They looked like flesh and blood. And I would speak to them and felt like I could walk up and touch them. But my sisters would see them just evaporate into thin air. And so it was the first day that we moved in that we realized there was something very, very different about this place than where we had come from. And then I was 12 when we moved to the farm. And when I turned 13, which is very interesting, if you do a lot of research about, in ufology. I've been a ufologist before that term was ever even invented.
Yeah.
But I had a close encounter unlike anything that I had ever experienced. And I saw an entire flotilla of vessels pass directly over the farm. I will never be able to tell you why I was outside alone with 4 younger sisters that were always with me, at least a couple of them at once. It was very rare that I was ever alone. But for some reason, I was standing out in the front yard and the sky was completely clear. It was as blue as the Caribbean Sea. And then all of a sudden, it was filled with what appeared to be multicolored cotton balls, huge cotton balls of every color you can imagine and 100 colors you've never seen before. And I was amazed by what had just happened. And then I saw the point of the large vessel coming over my head from behind where the sun was setting behind me. And it was a beautiful, beautiful day. And I remember all of a sudden, I couldn't hear anything. I didn't hear the vessels, and they were traveling so slowly that if that had been something manufactured on this planet, it would have toppled out of the sky. And I didn't have depth perception the way I would now, but I can tell you that the main vessel was probably the size of Manhattan. It was enormous, and it was being escorted by at least 10 and possibly 12 equidistant, much smaller vessels that were all in the shape of geometric figures.
Yeah.
2 of them side by side were round, 2 were square, 2 were triangles, 2 were rectangles, and then 2 like pentagon shaped. So it was all just geometry. And they were seamless. I didn't see anything about them that didn't appear to be whole, like they had been stamped out of metal, like a burnished brass color. But the main vessel was black, and it looked like an upside down city, like a city that had just been plucked and then flipped. And so all that would have been the skyscrapers were protrusions from the base of it. And it was so close that I could look at the lights in all of these like tubes or squares that were coming out of the bottom, and I could see beings at a distance, but I could see what looked like jet black beings. And I watched it go over. I got this strange kind of boom feeling around my head, like I was an astronaut and they had just put the bubble on my head. Interesting. My sister Cindy always called our close encounters with spirit as being in the bubble with them, like we were separate and distinct from everything going on around us. And I don't know how long I was outside, but the next thing that I remember is being in the kitchen and standing at the front window and pulling the lace curtains back and looking up and out to see if it was still there, and my mother asking me what I was looking for, and I couldn't answer her because I didn't understand what I had just seen.
Yeah.
45 years later, I found out that I was one of about 60 million people who this flotilla of vessels went above the head of. It had shown up originally on radar north of like Prince Edward Island, up in the Maritimes of Canada is where it first showed up. And it came down the eastern seaboard. When it got to about southern Maryland, it hopped the pond and made a tour of Western Europe. And when the Royal Air Force scrambled their fighter jets to go after it, it disappeared in a split second off radar above the Arctic Circle. It was just gone. It was just gone. But out of the 60 million or so people that supposedly it went directly over the head of, I believe in total 10,000 reports. Now, this is in the days before MUFON existed, or if it did exist, it was not well known. Excuse me. And I was just a little kid. Who was I going to tell? And who would believe me? So all those years, I thought, what was that and why did that happen to me? But if you extrapolate that out, I'm sitting at Star Work Symposium in Nevada in the back of the conference hall, sobbing, like trying to be very quiet as the speaker told the story of this flotilla that had made its presence so known in our world. And me thinking, I'm not the only one that saw it. I'm not the only one that saw it. And maybe if there were 10,000 reports, usually 1 in 10 will report a sighting. So maybe 100,000 people in total actually saw this thing. But out of 60 million, if you extrapolate that out, you have to come to one of two conclusions. Through either inductive or deductive reasoning, you must come to one of two conclusions. And that is that only those of us that were supposed to see it did see it, or that it was a way for them to make contact with their own kind on the planet, either subconsciously or consciously. I didn't know how to interpret what I saw. All I know is that I do believe that there is some point of correlation and integration between spirit activity, and I consider them off-world beings too, even though they do interact with us frequently. They are not of the earth anymore. They are buried in the earth, but they are not of the earth. But I think that there's some connection, and a profound one, between spirit and our galactic family. And I think that when we die, we go home to perhaps our home planet, or to, wherever our job was, whatever we were supposed to come here for to do. we either get reassigned. Oh, please send me someplace else where there's no war. Please send me someplace else where there is no war and no hatred and no ugliness and no vitriol and just love. Just love. I don't like 3D. I spend very, very little time in it. You can tell by how messy the house is. It's like, clean the house? No, I'm sorry. That's a Sisyphean task, and that is for mere mortals. And, well, it's not dirty. It's just cluttered because it's like my brain. It's cluttered. And all my attention really does go to my mother. So we'll run the vac tomorrow before the hospice nurse gets here. That's all I can promise.
So I've heard you say a few times, before, you're pretty adamant it was a mistake. You coming to this planet.
Yeah.
You don't like it. You have not had an easy life.
No.
But yet you are here, and very likely because you have a purpose. What do you feel like your reason for being here is?
Doing this right now, what we're doing right here, right now. Yeah. Spreading the word, spreading the message that love is the answer to every single question. Yes. Love. It's love. And humanity is doomed if we don't get this right. Yes. And I feel like I was born to be right here, right now, to get this message out into the world as fast and as far as I could. I feel like the internet was invented for me to do just that. And I was talking to a friend of mine, Paula Harris, who's she's very well known in the UFO community. She's an investigative journalist, brilliant, brilliant woman. And, she made Starworks happen for 10 years in a row. And she didn't do it this year because she said there's no need. Word is out. Well, word is out because of me and you and thousands of other people that do what we do. And I have said now for years, after I got done being so pissed at the government for withholding this critically important information from humanity, I finally came to the conclusion it's not their job. Their job is to protect their authority. Their job is to protect their institution, to be presumed as the most powerful people on the planet. Now, if suddenly they were to admit that there are multiple races circumnavigating our globe in numbers beyond anyone's comprehension, or that they are coexisting with us on planet, what would that do to people's belief that they were the authorities, that they were in control, that they were the power source for what drives the engine of our country, and so many others? It would completely and utterly undermine that authority. Mm-hmm. So I came to the conclusion that we are the point of disclosure. We are the credible people with incredible stories to tell and experiences to share. And so in that respect, I feel much more comfortable now. I don't care what comes out of the Department of Defense anymore. It's like what they've released thus far, based on what I know. They've released about the size of a snowflake on a iceberg the size of Antarctica. No thanks. Keep it. I know what I know. And I think that there are only two important questions that humanity must grapple with during the course of our existence and our evolution. And the first one is simple enough. Are we alone in the universe? And the answer to that is no. It's not wishful thinking. It's not an illusion. It's not. I know we are not alone in the universe. And I know some of the beings who are here. and watching over us, and they love us dearly, and they pose absolutely no threat to us, because if they did, they could have done away with us millennia ago. If I have a friend who's a producer, Serena, and it wasn't an argument, but a difference of opinion that we had one time on a live interview. Great. She said that she doesn't think that they look at us as anything other than like a bed of fire ants, that we are meaningless to them, that they are here to help preserve the planet, because every time we do damage to this planet, we're damaging other places in the universe, because everything is one thing and all the dimensions are interactive, interrelated, and I agree with that part, that there are multiple dimensions. We don't know how many, but that they exist simultaneously, and that everything is one thing, and it's energy, consciousness, existence, whatever label you want to put on it. And when we do damage here, we're doing damage elsewhere as well. But her attitude was that we mean nothing to them, that they just want to preserve the planet. Again, by deductive reasoning alone, it follows logically that if we are functionally the pestilence on the planet, we're the ones that are doing the damage, we're the ones that are changing the climate, we are the ones that are polluting the hell out of everything we touch. We've even polluted space, for God's sake, with no hope of cleaning it up. When they have to move the space station because there's a wrench coming their way at 16,000 miles an hour, problem needs a solution. It drives me insane. But, my argument with her was, if we're the problem, then taking us off planet, all of us, just wiping off all of the mess that we've made and taking us away, would free the earth to heal itself, from the ozone layer to the inner crust, and all the damage that we've done by pumping up, millions and millions, billions of gallons of fossil fuels, and literally changing the weight of the planet and pouring all of that up into our atmosphere. They would take the problem away. We have to find our way out of this dilemma, this conundrum ourselves. As a race, we are one. And when I think we come to, and that's what I, for all intents and purposes, preach, that it is in coming to a realization of oneness, that we are one singular human race, that we are all brothers and we are all sisters, and we are all related some way, somehow. And just to love each other and to love Mother Gaia, and to do everything that we can to preserve and protect and defend this magnificent, beautiful planet. That needs to be the primary motivation that is in the forefront of every human being's consciousness all the time. When Fukushima Daiichi had its meltdown after the tsunami that hit Japan, which coincided to the minute that my first book was released into the world. To the minute, as my book was walking in that door. There's a breaking news on CNN, earthquake in Japan, tsunami coming on shore. And my mother, not realizing that, it was as serious as it was, she said, "See, sweetheart, I told you, your story, our story would shake up the world." And then we watched 20,000 people die live before our eyes. And if you really examine the footage of that tsunami coming on shore, there are extraterrestrial vessels following it. There's plenty of film footage out there that were taken by helicopters that were hovering over it because they knew that it was coming, because the earthquake was so far offshore. I don't understand why the meltdown at Fukushima Daiichi isn't front page news to this day, 12, 13 years later. It is the biggest environmental disaster that the world has ever seen. And Japan is getting ready to pour 20 tons of radioactive water back into the Pacific. I guess nobody told them that it's not their ocean, first and foremost. I guess nobody told them that all the oceans are interconnected, as all life forms are interconnected on Earth. And the damage that will be done is incalculable. And slowly, 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 the United States raises the acceptable level of radiation in our environment so no one will notice that we're being nuked by water that was so grossly polluted that it will never recover in 1,000 generations. It won't. So I take all of this very, very seriously. The other question, which is also answered for me. See how I went back to my original point? Isn't that amazing? That's amazing that I even retained it. Are we alone in the universe? No, we are so not alone. And I'm going to use a double negative now because I have a degree in this language, so I can abuse it as I see fit.
Mm-hmm.
We are so not alone in the universe. It's amazing how not alone we are. The second is there something beyond our mortal existence? Absolutely. No question about it. What my family experienced at that farm was not a mass hallucination. It was not anything other than what it was. And that we were living with a whole bunch of dead people. And that they were making their presence known to us quite regularly. And draining us and the house of whatever energy they could get so that they could manifest in form. And they manifested in a variety of ways. I mean, it could be a swirling ball of smoke to a full body apparition and everything in between. And we lived that way for 10 years and still continue to this day, because once that door is opened, it never, ever closes again. It's the same concept of once you wake up in this great awakening, in this epiphany, in this paradigm shift, you can't ever go back to sleep again. You can't unknow, unthink, unhear, unfeel what you have experienced. And so it is the burgeoning expansion of human consciousness that ultimately we have to grapple with and get a handle on in terms of spreading this message to all of humanity that is capable of discerning the message. And until we do that, we are quite literally killing ourselves and everything around us all the time. I had an experience about maybe 6 or 7 years ago where I walked out into they woke me up. Oh, I was so tired. And my bed, I moved a little bit. I got kind of a nudge. It was about 3 o'clock in the morning, which is pretty usual, but I'd been working quite late and I was intending on sleeping through the night, and it was winter in Florida, which meant that I was going to have to put a robe on and I was going to have to put my unicorn slippers on because it was probably 50 degrees outside and I didn't want to freeze to death because I have been thoroughly Floridized. And I was a little aggravated because I didn't want to go out. But then when I said no and shushed them, like, no, not right now. This is not a good time for me. The whole bed moved. And I was like, fine. And I got up and I went outside and I stood in our huge driveway. And I just said, what is it? What? And I couldn't see a single star in the sky. The sky was completely black. And then I had a flash of light that blew me back. I mean, it literally physically moved me back. A flash of light that was so bright that for a moment, it blinded me. And in that moment, I went back in time to when I was 12 and we had just moved to the farm. And my parents wanted us to have the freshest eggs and the freshest of everything. So they found a nearby farm in Connecticut, which was literally like a 10-minute drive away. And they took us to this chicken farm, and my father was talking to the farmer and my mother was talking to the farmer's wife, and they brought us, the ladies brought us, the children, into that part of the farm where they would let some of the chicks be born. And there was this huge long thing of metal cups, incubators. And I started looking at them because some of them were moving a little bit. And I was fascinated. I was like, wow, this is great. And then I saw a tiny little beak peck through one of the shells. And I got excited because I wanted to hold the baby chick. So I reached forward to crack the shell to release the chick. And my mother gently removed my hand and she said, "Oh no, honey, if you crack the shell open, the chick will die." And I went into meltdown. I mean, I learned my lesson immediately because out of sheer ignorance, just not knowing, I almost killed an innocent baby chick. And I learned that lesson and I never thought about that moment again. And here I am, 56 years old at the time, 58 and through there, when this happened. And that was the message from them. We can't break that shell for you. You have to do it yourself, because the amount, what my mother was trying to tell me was that the amount of energy that and strength that would be required and be built in that baby chick by pecking its way out of its existing shell would be equivalent to the amount of energy required to exist on the other side of the shell out in the universe. And that if they did it, if we did it for them, then they would perish. And that's what they were trying to tell me. So what do? I go back in the house into my man cave, open up the computer that I had just shut down for the night, and until 5 o'clock in the morning, I wrote a 6-page long treatise called The Chicken and the Egg, because I got it. I heard it. I learned the lesson all over again. And isn't it fascinating that they took me back all those decades to my childhood for what was at that time traumatic to me, because I love creatures so much. Just the thought of killing one accidentally was overwhelming to me. Mm-hmm. But that was the message. We can't do it for you. We can't break your shell. You have to peck your way out of your own understanding of what 3D is and come and join us and enter into the full galactic family of light. When I met you, Rupert, I knew instantaneously who you were. And I had never seen you. I had never heard you speak. I had never read a word you had written. I'm almost done with your book, by the way. It's phenomenal. Phenomenal. Sorry it's taken so long, but my life.
That's okay.
And I was sitting with John Zaffis, and I just looked at him and I said, he's the reason I'm in Kansas City. Because that was an event that kind of came up out of nowhere. I usually book my events at least a year in advance. And like 2 or 3 months before, I suddenly found myself invited to Kansas City, Missouri, of all places. I'm like, who deliberately goes to Kansas City? I didn't know. But I said yes, and I went. And you met Greta, my agent, my dear friend, who loves you. She adores you. And I said the same thing to her. He's the reason I'm here. And I don't know why I said that. I don't normally behave the way I did that day. I'm normally a lot more staid in my approach. And I gave you about 5 minutes to introduce yourself around the room. And then I grabbed you and I pulled you over to the table. And then I just offloaded for at least 20 minutes. Telling you all about myself and what I do and so on. And then I took a breath and gave you a chance to reply. And you basically said, I do what you do. And I knew, bing, there it is. Okay, I'm supposed to be working with this man. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah. Our relationship now is already so strong just after a few months. And in the future, what we're going to be doing together is astonishing. I mean, this show is called Galactic Wisdom, and what you've just spoken in the last 30 minutes is just nothing but
Did I just
galactic.
talk for 30 minutes straight? Did I really? Oh my God.
Almost 40. That's okay. It gives me an excuse for you to come back. But when we met, we already knew each other.
Yeah.
Because time is extra multidimensional,
Mhm.
and I felt it and you felt it.
Yeah.
And occasionally in life you meet somebody and you feel like you already know them, and we already do know each other because we're, in the future we know each other very, very well. So yeah, that was a very profound and special moment, and we were guided together. Here's a shot from that time when we met.
Oh, I didn't know anybody even got pictures of that room.
Yeah, that's the room where we met. You're not in the photo here, but that's where it was. And Bettina sitting on the right there,
Yeah. And
she was given
Travis, his
messages
son.
by spiritual messages saying that she needs to invite me to these backstage meetings where you will be. And there was a very good reason for that. And we had a wonderful time that weekend.
We did.
And here we are, all of us together, having a meal in the hotel restaurant. That was wonderful. And ever since then, it's been nothing but positive. What we've been doing in Houghton Lake, there we are on stage, spreading peace, love, and happiness, and maybe a bit of galactic wisdom to everybody there.
And there's a photograph of us that is actually like pretty much in focus.
That's not bad, is it?
when we were holding hands, when I brought you up on stage to join me, a lot of people took photographs and all of them were out of focus. Everything around us was in focus, but we were out of focus. We almost looked a little ghost-like in some of them. And it was because we were in a different dimension that their cameras don't photograph.
Yeah. So there's so much that I want to say in relation to all of the amazing things you've already said, but I'm going to pick and choose one or two things. Here's a photo from your childhood. Am I right that this was taken at the farm?
No, that was the last Easter that we lived at the house in Cumberland. And I don't know why, because I was not one to wear headscarves, but when we went shopping and chose our Easter outfits, I saw this beautiful piece of lace and I asked my mother if she would get it for me. And I remember being aggravated because it kept getting caught in the side of my geeky glasses. But to the left is my sister Cindy, and then Nancy. I'm at the head of the stairs. There's Christine, whose ass you just saw a few minutes ago. And then my baby sister April, who sadly left us in 2016, a few weeks before her 52nd birthday.
Yeah.
But she's not really gone. She's around us all the time. But yeah, that was our Easter photos from
So that was before you moved
before we
to the
moved to the
farmhouse.
farm. Yeah. Yeah.
This
That
was
was
taken on the same day?
yes. Yep.
That's a nice photo. And your mother is
Yeah.
there to the
My
right.
mother is very beautiful.
And so your experiences were made into the movie. At least your experiences were the inspiration for the movie The Conjuring.
Yes.
Am I right that here you're all sitting in front of the actresses who played your characters?
Yeah, sitting behind them. Yeah.
What was the situation on this day? Was there filming going on? Did you
Yes. Yeah, there was massive filming going on that day, and I know we were a bit of a disruption, but everybody seemed so happy that we were there. And my father came, but my mother refused to go. And of everybody in the cast and crew of The Conjuring, the only person that didn't come to the set that day was Lily Taylor, who was the matriarch of the fictional family. So it was interesting that my mother refused to go at the last minute, and Lily Taylor refused to go at the last minute. They didn't want to meet each other. They didn't want it to interfere in any way. I don't know, but my mother had a very serious fall that day. She said she was pushed, and while we were out at the shoot site, and we were 9 hours from here, and she was pushed, and she fell to the floor, and she broke her hip. And thankfully, my niece was just on her way over here to ask her grandmother if she'd like to go out to dinner, because everybody else was gone, and she's the one that found her. And when we all rushed back, we left the set and we drove straight back, and all of us went right to the hospital. And Mom sat up in bed and she said, "I have not felt that presence in more than 30 years." Looked directly in my eyes, held my hand, and then laid back down and slept straight through until the following morning. And she was just coming out of anesthesia. And she has no recollection of saying it. But she said that it was Bathsheba, because she was so angry about the film and being portrayed the way she was portrayed, and blamed my mother. Well, I had it out with her, and I told her, "Don't you ever, ever lay a hand on my mother again. If you've got an issue, I'm the one that signed the contract. I am the one that gave them permission to tell this story in their own way, knowing that they were going to twist it into something that it was not. But they were going to make our story regardless of if we signed onto it or not. They were just going to change our family name and tell our story." And I couldn't let that happen. So I was between a rock and a hard place, and I set it straight with Bathsheba, and I have a very, very good relationship with her. In fact, she came through a spirit box in a session that I was doing with George one time, and she came right through and she threw my voice, and he's like, no, you use your own voice or we can't have this. And the next vocalization that came through sounded like a 12-year-old girl. She was very, very petite, very diminutive, and had a relatively high-pitched voice. And she came through, and George said, "Okay, that's fine. Now, what one word do you associate with Andrea?" And she said, "Love." I am her defender. She didn't do what she was accused of doing. If there was any proof that she had done what she was accused of in the court of public opinion, she wouldn't be buried in the middle of consecrated ground in the middle of Harrisville, Rhode Island, with her 4 children and her husband. She never lived at the farm. She lived at an adjacent property. And of course, there were only a few homesteads back in the early 1800s when she was there. And, we'll probably never know the whole story of what she was ultimately accused of and then absolved of. And I can't absolve her of anything, but what I can do is defend her. And so I do that. That's one of the things that I do.
Yeah.
I
you're
talk to the
working
Galactic family, and I defend wrongfully treated.
And you're working on a project where you will be able to tell your side of the story completely in the future.
Yeah.
And is one of the things that is going to be in that story. Is it going to be a TV series?
That's what I want to do, because I think it will reach the most people that way. I don't want to do a series of feature films, and I'm certainly not willing to remake The Conjuring. What would be the point of that?
Yeah. If
it can't be our experiences and our truth? And I think, Rupert, I really do think people are ready for this. I do. It's a very intense and compelling story. Bears no actual resemblance to The Conjuring, other than a few snippets here and there that were accurate. But for the most part, that film is 95% fiction, literally conjured in the mind of 2 screenwriters who were trying to appeal to the masses. And so every time the screenwriters, to their credit, tried to tell at least snippets of our story. The three-piece suit wearers at Warner Brothers and New Line Cinema said, take that out. People aren't going to be able to handle that. We're not putting 25 or 30 million dollars into making a movie that nobody's going to stay to watch to the end because they're so freaked out. Take it out. So now, but it's because of that movie that I am considered one of the very best bestsellers in this genre, in the paranormal genre. I don't know anybody that's selling more books than I am all these years later. I published volume 1 of House of Darkness, House of Light in 2011. It's 2023. And they're flying off the shelves like hotcakes at the beach in July in Rhode Island, you know, and it's like everybody's like the words, it's like the world is ready for this story. So I'm working with a wonderfully talented screenwriter who's a very close friend of mine. I actually fell in love with his wife before I met him at St. Augustine, Florida. I don't know how many years ago, but we're very close friends, and he's wonderful. And he and I have been working on this now for quite a while, about three years, all through COVID. I also made a boatload of movies during COVID. Beyond the Grave, We Are Not Alone. There's another one coming out next month, and then one in January, and other projects that I'm working on too. I feel this sense of urgency. Bill keeps telling us we're running out of time.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to tell Bill that time is irrelevant, that it is an illusion, that it is a human machination that we've conjured. Okay, now he's just laughing at me. I'm used to this.
Well, what this means is, Andrea, because I haven't been able to ask you a tiniest fraction of questions that I wanted to ask you today. So maybe you've done this on purpose, but I am going to have you back on the show in the future.
Over and over and over and over again.
If people would like to join you and me every week to do a world peace manifestation, then join the Facebook group Galactic
Wisdom.
Andrea, it has been a pleasure to have you on my show. Thank you so much for being here. I wish you and your family all the love in the world. I look forward to seeing you again in the future. Goodbye.
I adore you. Talk to you later.